What's up YouTube, this is Ballista X79 guys. Today I'm coming to you with my latest deck profile video for August 2021. And today guys, we'll be looking at my Machina Infinitrack deck. Now the Machina and Infinitrack archetypes synergize way too well, primarily because they are both Earth Machine archetypes. And because of that, they complement each other by supplying additional control aspects as well as additional firepower for each other. And to be very honest, this deck can really cause your opponent a lot of problems because just the way the monster effects are, even if they get over a problematic monster on your side of the field, you can always bring out another one in its place, and with the effects you can even blow your opponent's board on their turn. And I can tell you this right now, this deck is very budget friendly, and as time goes on, especially once we get the Mega 10 reprints for this year, it's going to get even more budget friendly. So this is definitely something that I would strongly recommend picking up because it is a fun deck to play and it's definitely worth adding to your deck lists. So without further ado, we're jumping right into this. So we're going to start off with the Machina cards, and the first card you need is one copy of Machina Citadel, and that's all you need for this card. Has a couple of awesome effects. While this card is in your graveyard and one of your Earth Machine monsters are destroyed by battle or card effect, you can immediately special summon this card right onto the field. And not only that, but this card also has a quick effect that you can actually target a machine monster on your field, destroy it, and then your opponent has to destroy all monsters on their side of the field with attack equal to or less than the destroyed monster. And Machina Citadel can even target itself, so it's basically like a quick effect Raigeki. Very insane, really easy to set up, and once you set it up, it is a great way to control your opponent. Next up, we got one copy of Machina Fortress. Both Citadel and Fortress are available in the Mechanized Madness structure deck, as well as the spell card and the trap card I'm going to show you. So definitely it is very budget friendly. Fortress, what can I say? Easy to summon. Basically, you discard machine type monsters with levels equal to level 7 or higher, and that includes himself, to the graveyard, and you can special summon from your hand or your graveyard, which is awesome. Pairing him with Citadel can just load your graveyard and get Fortress on the field. And while on the field, Fortress is really no slouch. Even if your opponent attacks over it, it's going to pop a card off your opponent's field, so you get an instant revenge pop. And not only that, but if your opponent decides to target it with a card effect, it rips a card out of your opponent's hand. So yes, this card does put in a lot of work, and it's definitely worth having in this deck. Next up is the one Machina card that wasn't included in the structure deck because it came out after, and that's Machina Metal Cruncher. This card came out in Eternity Code, so it should be getting a reprint in this year's Megatins. Whether it be going up to Secret or going on the Super, it really doesn't care because 9 times out of 10 the Megatin reprints tend to be cheaper than the initial original printings of the card. Why is this card so important, and why do we have to run a 3? Well, it's essentially a Stratos for the entire deck. On summon your search, you're going to reveal 3 Earth Machine monsters from your deck. Your opponent randomly chooses one to add to your hand, and then the other 2 are shuffled back in the deck. So it's like a pot of duality in that regards. And it's pretty easy to get in the field. You don't have to really tribute summon it out. You can just normal summon it without tributing it, and its attack goes from 2800 to 1800. So yeah, it's an easy monster to get out in the field, and it's definitely something worth running in this deck since it can access every Earth Machine card in your deck. Next up, we have the Infinitrack monsters. Okay, one more about the Infinitracks is definitely go after the versions that were released in last year's Megatin, the 2019 Megatins, primarily because they are all dirt cheap compared to the versions I'm showing you right now. The Secret Rare version of Harvester right now is about $5 and change, while the Ultra Rare version is about $1.15. So you get the whole idea where you want to be searching for these cards. Harvester, very important at 3, just like Metal Cruncher, it's a Stratos for the Infinitrack archetype. On summon, you're searching your deck for an Infinitrack monster to add to your hand, and that's going to help kick off your plays. Also, both Harvester and the next card, Anchor Drill, has a level modulation effect, which you can combine its level with another monster you targeted, and those monsters, both monsters become that level of the combined levels. Very awesome. course, we have Anchor Drill. Only one copy. This is pretty much the right ratio for Harvester to Anchor Drill, because Anchor Drill really requires another Earth Machine monster in your hand to bring out with it. So if you open with Citadel on this card, yeah, you pretty much have a Citadel on the field, and you can interfere with your opponent's board right there. And that's the reason why we only really want one, because even though you want to be bringing out multiple monsters during the course of your turn, making sure you get your resources, and the fact that the bigger Infinitrack monsters can special summon themselves from your hand, not that big of a deal, so only one for this guy. Next up, we're running 2 copies of Infinitrack Brutalizers. Some people like running 3, I like running 2, primarily because you're going to be using the search for Harvester to get to this guy anyway. Like I said, all the level 5 Infinitrack monsters have the ability to special summon themselves. All you have to do is tribute an Earth Machine monster that's on the field. He comes out, special summons himself to the field in defense position, and then he also special summons another Infinitrack monster right from your deck to the field as well. So you can easily get into your rank 5 plays like that just with him. The other level 5 Infinitrack monster we run into is Infinitrack Trencher. Trencher is basically an archetype monster reborn for your Infinitracks. While this card's in the graveyard, you can banish it and special summon another Infinitrack monster back onto your field. And the last Infinitrack monster we are running is 1 copy of Infinitrack Tunneler. Tunneler is kind of like the Pot of Arvis of the deck, especially for Earth Machine monsters. While this card's in your graveyard, you can just banish it, target 5 Earth Machine monsters, and shuffle them back into your deck, and then you get to draw 2 cards. Pretty awesome, in my opinion. And now that something I just recently learned is that you can actually banish Tunneler and target your 5 cards, and even if one of them gets sniped by DD Crow, the card's effects will still resolve, returning as many as possible of the targeted cards back into your deck, and you still get your draw 2. So just keep that in mind. Alright, next up for the Earth Machines, we are running a couple of train cards. 1 copy of Super Express Bullet Train. This card's been reprinted earlier this year thanks to the Legendary Collection Season 2. It's been reprinted across a lot of different rarities, and I've seen prices go for like $1.25 all the way up to $7. So yeah, it's definitely a budget-friendly card. Don't worry about attacking with this card, because really what we want to do is we want to be sending this card to the graveyard turn after turn, primarily because during the end phase, it'll kick back a card from your graveyard back to your hand, so you always are going to be able to recycle cards out of your graveyard into your hand and keep going. And the other train card we're running is 1 copy of Dora Crane. Pretty easy to get out, just like Bullet Train. All you need is an Earth Machine monster on the field, and you can special summon it. The 2 trains are primarily in there for the rank 10 plays. And to be really honest, that's really all they're needed for. If you don't like Bullet Train or Dora Crane, Night Express Knight is another great card, and it's also a normal summon, so you have an alternative just instead of just relying on Harvester as your normal summon for the turn. That being said, if Dora Crane is used as an Xyz material and detached, you get an additional effect where you can actually pop a card off your opponent's field, which is actually pretty awesome. Alright, one little tech card that I'm testing in here is this Gizmek card. Alright, this is the, let's see, Gizmek Uka, the Festive Fox Affinity. Alright, it is an Earth Machine monster, so it fits and synergizes well in the deck. If this card's in hand and you special summon a monster from your deck to the field, which is very easy with Bulldozer as well as a trap card, you can special summon this guy onto the field. And while this card is face up on the field, anytime your opponent summons a monster, they're losing 300 life points every time they summon. So yeah, it adds a little extra spice into the deck, and it helps lower your opponent's life points, so when you want to go for that kill, you can actually get yourself into range pretty easily. I'm testing this card out at 1. I might push it up to 2 just because of the burn effect being so wonderful in this deck. Last card, Earth Machine monster I'm running, is 1 copy of Ancient Gearbox. Ancient Gearbox, anytime this card is added from your deck or graveyard to your hand, you're able to search your deck for a monster with 500 attack or 500 defense. So it's a pretty decent search. There's a lot of different ways to actually get this card into your hand, which is actually pretty cool. My issue is that if you don't go for this early and you do manage to start using this later in the game, you're not going to have that many targets. I came across this issue several times when I was playing this deck. Late game, it's just not as good as early game. Because you're not going to have that many targets left in your deck to really search. This card can really search out Harvester, Anchor Drill, Trencher, and Tunneler, and basically if I don't go for the Link Monster that can get this guy out early, I'm able to basically clear out the deck without it, and that's the primary reason why I'm kind of not that thrilled with it late game. But like I said, early game, it is kind of worth it. So, well, that's it for the Earth Machine Monsters. We are running hand traps, and I am running 3 copies of Draw and Lockbird. Now, I know this is not exactly the best budget-friendly hand trap out there. A lot of the decks I've seen double down with this and Ash Blossom, and in my opinion, that's just not good. Even at the cheapest, Ash Blossom is about $17.50. The cheapest version of Droll is actually the Gold Rare alternate art printing of this card that came out in last year's gold set, which is about $11.25. So 3 copies would be about $33.75 compared to the $17.50 of the cheapest Ash. So you get the whole idea there. $33.75 is a whole lot cheaper than $52.50. That's all I'm saying. And not only that, but being able to shut down your opponent from being able to search, that can hurt a lot of decks, and if they don't have enough follow-ups, they're not going to be able to build. And that's the reason why I'm actually including this other hand trap in my deck, and that's 3 copies of Effect Veiler. The most recent printing of this card was a common copy in the Spirit Charmer structure deck, so definitely that would be the one you want to be targeting to get. And the primary reason why I'm running this card is basically because if your opponent has the extenders, you can start shutting down their monster effects, and without the ability to search, they're going to have a hard time getting a foothold. And that's going to allow you to basically be able to go in for that kill shot on your following turn. And that's it for the monster lineup. Next up, we're running spells. So we have 1 copy of Call by the Grave. Very awesome card. Deserves the single slot in this deck. Can do a lot of different damage by stopping hand traps, as well as taking problematic cards out of the graveyard that could possibly be recurring. Next up, we have 3 copies of Heavy Forward. This is another card that came out of Eternity Code. Last time I checked, this card was sitting about $7 a copy. If you guys want to wait for the Megatins, it probably will be cheaper through those. Basically, on activation, you're searching the deck for any Infinitrack monster to add to your hand. And then you can activate one of the following effects. You can either change the battle position of a Xyz monster on the field, or 2, you can attach this card to an Xyz monster as a material. You're not going to be really utilizing that first bulleted effect, primarily because we're not running the Infinitrack trap that actually changes battle position, but we are going to be needing extra materials onto cards because some of the Xyz monsters will be needing them, so definitely a worthwhile card. And then of course we got 3 copies of the Machina Redeployment. Machina Redeployment is the searcher spell for the Machina archetype. Basically, you pitch a card from your hand to the graveyard to search your deck for 2 Machina monsters with different names. If you're using that effect, I strongly recommend Fortress and Citadel at the same time. This way you can just ditch Citadel and Fortress to summon Fortress, and then you have Fortress on the field with Citadel waiting in the graveyard. So that's pretty much the play I like to use. If you pitch a Machina monster to the graveyard, you can actually search 2 Machina cards, except for Redeployment, and add them to your hand. So you can actually easily access the Machina trap card alongside something like Metal Cruncher. And speaking of the Machina trap card, we are running 3 copies of it. Machina Overdrive is just an insane card. First, you target a machine monster you control. Special summon a Machina monster from your deck to the field, and then destroy that monster. If it's an Earth Machine monster and you have Citadel, you're getting Citadel on the field. And if you summon Metal Cruncher this way, you're actually getting a search on your opponent's turn as well to boot. While this card is in the graveyard, you can banish it, target 3 machine monsters in your graveyard, shuffle them back in your deck, and you draw one card. So you get that mini Pot of Arbors effect. You can't use both effects in the same turn, but hey, it is worth it, and you are able to recoup your resources. Next up, we have 2 copies of Paleozoic Dynamiscus. Discard a card, target one card your opponent has on their field, and banish it. So it's just a way to clear out your opponent's field of problematic cards, whether it be back row or monsters. And of course, whenever you activate traps, this card can also special summon itself. So having an extra buy on the field, not a bad idea. Of course, you're probably not going to be special summoning because we do run a Floodgate in this deck, and I'm running Rivalry Warlords in this deck. I know a lot of people like to run Gearsome match in this deck, primarily because the majority of the main deck is Earth attribute. My issue is that with Gearsome match, it kind of locks you out of some of the better cards that are in the extra deck, and I would much rather lock myself into machine only rather than just Earth attribute, so I have full access to my extra deck, and I can be able to play regardless of this card up, face up. And last but not least, we run in 2 copies of Trap Trick. We do have quite a few normal traps in there, so banishing one to set one to activate during the same turn definitely is a worthwhile cause. And that's it for the main deck. On to the extra, and we have the Infinitrack Xyz monsters. We got 1 copy of River Stormer, 1 copy of Mountain Smasher, and then 1 copy of Earth Slicer. Okay, now all the Infinitrack Xyz monsters, they have 2 similar effects. The first one, if they destroy a monster by one of your opponent's monsters by battle and send it to the graveyard, those monsters don't stay in the graveyard, they're actually attached to the Xyz monster that destroys them. And second off, if these cards are in the graveyard, you can distribute a Machine Link monster, special summon this card, special summon the Infinitrack Xyz monster onto the field in defense position, and you could go from there. Very handy effects to be able to get things back onto the field, and with the ability to attack over your opponents and gain more materials, it is worth it. Now, for their individual effects, River Stormer can actually add an Earth Machine monster from your deck to your hand, or send it to the graveyard, so that's actually very handy if you have a way to set up your Citadel. Mountain Smasher is a great level 7. A lot of people don't like it, primarily because it doesn't really give you a plus, or it doesn't interact with your opponent's field. I like it primarily because if this plays into the first effect, this being able to attack over your opponent's monsters, and whenever you detach a material, it gains an additional 1,000 attack points that turn. So, continue with climbing. The interaction that you're going to want is being able to swing over your opponent's monsters and taking those monsters as materials for your Xyz monster. And last but not least, we have Infinitrack Earth Slicer. That attaches many materials from this card as you can, and then target the same number of cards on your opponent's field and destroy them. So you get to pop cards off your opponent's field. Next up, since we are running level 5 machine monsters, we have to run the Cyber Dragon package, Cyber Dragon Nova, which will lead into Infinity. Infinity is an Omnigade, and they can also slurp up any attack position monsters. Very handy if your opponent is running a very Link-centric deck. We do have the ability to go into a rank 8 play, and that's going to be the Gearsome. The rank 8 play is basically using the modulating effect of Anchor Drill with Gearbox. They'll both become level 8s. On summoning the Gearsome will send any monster on your opponent's field right to the graveyard, non-destruction. And this card can protect other monsters on your field from being destroyed by card effects, which is actually pretty cool. Rank 9, we are running Phantom Fortress Enterblather. Basically, one of those cards on the field detach a material, and you're basically banishing something of your opponents, whether it be a card off their field, a card out of the graveyard, a card out of their hand, or even the card off the top of their deck. Alright, for rank 10 plays, we are running Super Dora and Lieb. Super Dora can turn any card in this deck into a towers, which is just awesome sometimes. And Lieb, well, what can I say? Lieb is basically that one card that can just power itself up and smash through your opponent. Next up for the links, we have 3 copies of Infinitrack Goliath. Goliath is pretty awesome. If this card is ever sent from the field to the graveyard, you can target a face-up Xyz monster you control and attach this card to that Xyz monster as a material. And while this card is attached as a material, that Xyz monster cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. So very awesome being able to refill your Xyz monster's materials. Next up, we got Ancient Gear Ballista. On summon, you're searching your deck for your Ancient Gearbox, and that in turn will get you an additional search. Also, you can target one spell and track card you control, and then one of your opponent's monsters. You send the spell and track card to the graveyard, and you bottom out that opponent's monster's attack to 0 for the rest of the turn, which is actually pretty cool. It can help you facilitate some pretty nasty OTK plays. Next up, we got double-headed Anger Knuckle. This card is pretty awesome. It has a quick effect that can actually allow you to send a card from your hand or the field to the graveyard to special summon a level 10 machine monster in defense position. And if this card is in the graveyard, you could actually discard a card or send a card from your field to the graveyard to special summon them. So yeah, there are ways for you to utilize this card again and again. And last but not least, we are running 1 copy of Infinitrack Fortress Microcops. I can tell you right now, Microcops is just insane. It takes 3 Xyz monsters to get out, but when you get him out, he can't be destroyed by card effects unless it's through a Xyz monster. Can't be destroyed in battle unless it's with an Xyz monster. So you get the whole idea. I know Zeus is kind of out there still, but this guy's at 4K and Zeus is what, 3K? Not only that, but you can actually target 1 card your opponent controls and 1 Xyz monster in your graveyard, special summon the Xyz monster, and then you can take your opponent's monster as a material for that Xyz monster. So yeah, you can a 4K monster that can bust your opponent boards. That's actually a pretty damn awesome thing. Alright guys, that is it for my Machina Infinitrack deck profile for August 2021. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you already haven't. Enable notifications so you don't miss any uploads. Check out the description box below. Find the invite link to my Discord server. Join the conversation. We'll love to have you. Check out my affiliates, tcgplayer.com as well as sidedeckversus.com. Great resources for any Yu-Gi-Oh player. Follow me on social media. And until next time, guys, peace.